Early that day, when the light showed that it was no longer night, but it was not quite yet morning, that's when she awoke. Not that she had been sleeping much these last few days. I mean, how could she? Everything that had happened seemed to crack into her dreams and shake her from sleep. But at least this morning, she had something to do, a job. And so she got dressed and she gathered the spices. She wrapped them in a bundle and went out the door. And she made her way in that gray light through the houses, through the streets, and up that rocky path and into the hills. And she could see the mound on the horizon. But then what she saw next made her heart sink. The stone that should have been there, it had been removed. How could it be? She knew in an instant what that meant. They had stolen him. They had hidden him away. There'd be no way that they could find him. And in a flurry, she made the way back down the rocky path, back through the streets, back through the houses to find the others. And she found two of them and she shook them awake and she said, "They have stolen him and we can't find the body." The others stirred awake and they went running and racing out the door while she, catching her breath, turned back and followed them back to the tomb. And while she was still behind, she could see them go on running and racing, and one making it there before the other. And that one bent down and looked in and seemed to see something. And then the other caught up and bent down and went in, and they both went in, and they seemed to be looking at something, but she couldn't watch anymore. After everything, how could it be? And that's when the tears began to fall. Everything had been taken from her. She didn't need this. They didn't need this. And so lost in thought was she didn't even notice where the others had gone by the time she got back to the tomb. Maybe they went to go hide. Maybe they were afraid that they would suffer the same fate. But while they fled, she stayed. And she stood there and cried. And she brought herself to bend down and look into that place. And then she saw the body was gone. But there in the place where they laid him were the burial linens. The cloth they had wrapped his body in were there and neatly folded. She was so taken with that, she barely noticed that there were two strangers in there too. She didn't have a moment to speak before they asked her, "Ma'am, why are you crying?" And she blurted out, they've stolen the body. We can't find him. She didn't even know who they were. She didn't even know who had taken him. All she knew is that the one that she sought had already been taken from her before. He died at the hands of the state, a criminal. Did they really have to take his body too? Everything that she had come to hope and trust and believe everything that he had promised now felt as empty as that tomb. It's then that she realized she was still holding on to the spices. So much for those. They had even taken that job away from her. So with that, she turned to leave and almost ran into someone else. Who is this, the gardener? That's when a thought popped into her head. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe they had found a stranger. After all, he was a stranger in a borrowed tomb. Maybe they just thought he shouldn't have been there. Maybe that's why they took him. Oh, and that gave her a glimmer of hope, because maybe that meant she could finally give him a proper goodbye. It wouldn't bring him back, but at least she could do a proper anointing to give him what he deserved. So with that, she asked who she thought was the gardener. She said, "Sir, if you have taken him, just please let me know where you have put him, and I'll bring him back." And that's when he said her name. Mary. And she saw who was in front of her. Teacher? How could he be there? How could it be? She didn't know what it meant. She didn't know how. She didn't even know if he was really there. And so she reached out and touched him, and yes, he was there. And so she grabbed him and held on tight. And Jesus said, "Mary, we can't stay here. I gotta keep moving. But go and tell the others. I'm going to meet them." And oh, she did. How could she not? She went running, the spices flying out of her hands, running back down the stony path, through the streets, into the houses, finding the others. And she declared, "I have seen the Lord." That which had been taken had actually been given her. That which was empty had actually been emptied.